Um, there. Hmm. How are your guys' day going, by the way? Pretty good.
Going good for me.
Moving and grooving over here.
Catching up on Chino Hills right now.
Good. Hey, Hernando, how are you?
Hey, Hernando. Nick just said hi, but I think your audio is still connecting. Thank you for joining.
No problem.
Totally fine. Nice to see you, Hernando. How are you?
Good to see you guys.
Busy day today. Hi, Giovanni. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Long time no see.
Indeed. How are you guys?
How's your winter?
Winter?
Yeah.
Not
You're up
too
in
bad.
Connecticut, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's what I thought.
No, Connecticut's actually been pretty warm. We've been in the upper 40s, lower 50s. Seems like
Nice.
we're getting spring, but I think we're looking to get some snow maybe early next week.
Okay.
Where you guys out of again?
Austin, Texas.
Oh yeah, no winter down there.
All right, we got some people starting to join. Let's give it a couple minutes. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're going to give everyone a couple minutes to join. Most of you look like you are, but just good housekeeping. Please keep yourself muted, and we'll have the opportunity for Q&A at the end. But it's great to see all of you. And we'll probably look to start at 5 to 8 past the hour. So actually, in the meantime, while people are joining, why don't we just start to get everything nice and queued up? Can everybody see that okay? We're still going to get people time to join us. Want to make sure everyone can see this okay. Jack, can you see this okay? Great. Hi, Pamela. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here. And
Great
I
to see
look forward to meeting Howard Newman because on my baby book, when you open it up, Howard, it says, "Welcome, Howard Lawrence Newman." That was supposed to be me.
Hi there. Thank you for the shout out. Hello to all.
So it's good to meet you because otherwise I was you.
All right, everybody. I think we can probably go ahead and get started. If more people end up joining while this is going on, that's going to be fine. As a reminder to everyone, this session is being recorded, so I want to make sure I let everyone know that. Otherwise, I invite you to sit back, relax. I hope it's going to be one of the more interesting meetings today. We're here to talk about how Gridmatrix is applying machine vision and AI for road safety. We've developed some new and innovative technology, which I'm excited to show you today. And even more importantly, I'm excited to show you the impact that it's having because a lot of our customers are leveraging it in order to help reduce congestion, or pardon me, collisions and other road safety hazards on the networks that they're responsible for. So please sit back, relax. If you have questions, I would ask you please save them to the end. We are going to have a dedicated Q&A session, and more than interested to hear everything that you have in terms of feedback or how you think that this technology might apply to some of your own challenges. Thank you so much. All right. So to start, just a quick agenda. I'm going to take you through, for those of you who might not already be familiar, a little bit more about Gridmatrix as a company, how it developed, and some of the key milestones to date. I want to talk to you about how the technology underlying Gridmatrix's platform works. So we're going to look at a little bit under the hood at the machine vision technology that's powering the insights that we deliver to our customers. I want to talk about some deployments that we have nationally. We're going to talk about some highlights because at this point we're working essentially across the country. But then I want to specifically focus on some of the highlights that we have, or the deployments that we have, concentrating on road safety. I'm going to do a demonstration of our platform, so you're going to get to see firsthand what our customers are seeing and the tools that they have in their hands in order to address their specific challenges. And then most importantly, I want to talk about the impact. So it's great that you have all this data, but how is this data being applied and how is it actually being used to make actionable reductions in collisions, near misses, and other indicators of road safety hazards? And then we'll open up to a Q&A. All in all, and I always like it when people tell me how long to expect, I think this should probably take about 30 minutes end to end, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. So thank you so much. So let's get to it. For those of you who are not familiar with Gridmatrix as a platform, what we do is we serve critical infrastructure operators. And the way that we think about our customers are ports, airports, bridges, tunnels, and what they all have in common are these are operators of large pieces of complicated physical infrastructure, and that absolutely includes roadway operators. What we do is we make software that connects to existing sensors that all these different critical infrastructure operators already operate. So if they have cameras, radar, inductive loops, or they're interested in new and emerging sensing technologies such as LiDAR, regardless of the kind of sensor they have, our software will connect to it, take all that information into the cloud, aggregate it, process it, and then turn it into useful and actionable insights they can use for a number of different use cases. And then one of those specifically is road safety, and that's what we're going to focus on today. A little bit more about us. As I mentioned, the idea is to be entirely hardware agnostic and in software first. We're headquartered in Austin, Texas. Myself and my original co-founders came from Apple in order to start this company, and we're taking what we learned there at one of America's leading technology companies and applying it to what we're building here. Some other big milestones to date for us. We're deployed in New York City on the world's busiest bridges and tunnels. These are the bridges and tunnels that connect Manhattan and New Jersey. We're deployed in more than 20 other US cities across the country, and these include ports, airports, bridges, and tunnels. We're whitelisted in multiple states. The largest of all of them is Texas, where we're on the state's Department of Information Resources Technology, the state's Department of Information Resources Registry. We are a privacy first platform, and I do always like to mention that, especially since we use cameras, but our technology does not collect license plates, biometric data, or any other kind of personally identifiable information. We are a enterprise grade platform, so we are SOC 2 Type 2 certified, which means we conform to the highest grade of cybersecurity and data privacy standards. And most importantly, and I always like to say this, we're a mission-driven team. We're doing this because we really want American infrastructure to be the best in the world. And this has been an area that has been chronically underinvested in our country for too long. So in terms of how our technology works, if you just concentrate over here on the left, you'll see multiple different sensor types: camera, LiDAR, radar, inductive loops. Again, the idea is that our software is hardware agnostic, which means we can connect to any type of sensor that you have, and even different types or even different grades of sensor within that. And I'll get into that in a moment. But the idea here is that all that information gets pulled into the cloud, processed using machine vision technology or other AI inferencing, and then turned into useful and actionable metrics on more than 40 different road and safety KPIs. These include congestion, signal performance, emissions, and safety. And we have a number of different modes of access as well. So you're able to pull the data directly via an API. You're also able to see in a web dashboard, which I will show you in just a little bit as part of our demo. So when I say that we're hardware agnostic, a lot of the engineering effort that we put into in our company has been, how do we get very good information out of bad inputs, or in this case, maybe low quality sensors? Because again, what we're trying to do is for all of our customers not have to have them spend the money on new hardware. Instead, just be able to leverage the hardware they already have. And what we've chronically found or consistently found is that most of our customers have already invested and operate in edge sensors such as cameras, thermal sensors, radar, all the sensors that you see here. And the big challenge is, how do I get good information out of them when I have low resolution, low frame rates? You see a 360-degree camera on the top, so the image is a little bit distorted. And really, the core of our technology is getting very high accuracy data out of all of these different sensor types, and also allowing our customers to integrate multiple different sensor types into a single platform and see all of their data in one place. Another thing that we found is a lot of our customers have multiple different types of these sensors across their city or across their facility. And what they want is to get data from all of them in one location. And they haven't yet had a specific platform that's able to connect to all of them simultaneously and aggregate the data in one place for them. So I'm going to show you a couple of different challenges that we've solved doing this. This is all patented technology. This first one was a patent for near miss detection. What a near miss is a collision that almost happened. And for every collision or fatality that does happen on an American road, there's probably it's the tip of the iceberg, and there's probably 1,000 more that almost happen. And never before have our customers been able to see this kind of information before. They've only seen, in looking backward, the historical record of collisions and fatalities. So this loop is going to play a couple times. What you're going to see here right now, you're seeing a cyclist cross a busy intersection. He almost gets intercepted by this vehicle. And what our AI is doing is it's tracking all these different objects. It's tracking their trajectories. It's tracking their speed. It's predicting, based on all of that data, where they're going to go next. And then when there's a path of conflict or trajectory of conflict, like you see here on the lower left, it's logging that information. It's logging all of the metadata around it. So what types of objects were involved? Where did they originate from? Where were they heading? And then using that kind of information, we're starting to empower our customers to be able to see patterns with quantifiable data that would allow them to justify making, let's say, an investment decision, such as, I'm going to take the time to retime the signal light, or in this specific intersections case, it might benefit from a crosswalk across the you can see the red region on the northern approach, but there are a lot of pedestrians crossing there and there's no crosswalk. But it'd be very difficult without this kind of information to justify that investment. So what we're doing is giving our customers the tools to be proactive about making safety mitigating or safety enhancing measures, where previously they would have had to be reactive. They would have had to wait for enough collisions, fatalities, or other hazards to accumulate before justifying the investment that they can now undertake with our platform. So another piece of technology that I want to show you that we actually were awarded the US patent for 2 weeks ago is pan-tilt zoom compatibility. So a piece of feedback that we've gotten specifically from our customers, it's great that you have this technology. It's great that you can get accurate data out of our existing infrastructure, our existing cameras, let's say. But if we want to really operationalize this, we have teams of operators that are consistently moving the cameras around. They're looking at specific roadway hazards or other special events that they'd like to see. In this case, a roadway operator is zooming in on a disabled vehicle. And what our technology is doing is constantly, there's an AI algorithm running in the background that's constantly checking, is this camera looking at the same thing or not? And the area of interest is, of course, the intersection here. But as soon as an operator taps into the camera, decides to move it, and then zooms in on the disabled vehicle, what the AI algorithm is doing, it's constantly checking, is this camera looking at the intersection or not? And as soon as it determines that the intersection is no longer in view, it'll automatically pause data collection. Once the operator resumes the camera's origin position, the AI algorithm will immediately begin collecting data again. And this is important because what it allows us to do is essentially be an invisible upgrade layer to existing infrastructure without interrupting current standard operating procedures, which is very important. Essentially, all of our customers can use their sensor networks the way that they have always used them, as they were intended to be used when they decided to invest in them. And all we're doing is adding an invisible layer of intelligence to it without disrupting any of their standard operating procedures. So I want to now move into talking about some of our deployments and our deployments across the country, and highlighting the ones that specifically focus on road safety, so that you can see exactly how our customers are applying all of this technology for their use cases. So first off, on the left, I've talked about a little bit already, but we've been deployed in New York City on the world's busiest bridges and tunnels. These are the tunnels that connect Manhattan and New Jersey, the Lincoln Tunnel and the Holland Tunnel. We've also previously been deployed on the George Washington Bridge. This center deployment is up and coming in San Mateo County. That's everything south of San Francisco and north of Palo Alto, but it's a huge swath of the region south of San Francisco, and specifically focused on trying to mitigate collisions, fatalities, and other serious road hazards on some of these very busy thoroughfares between San Jose and San Francisco. And then over here on the right is a facility deployment. We're deployed at one of the largest cargo ports in the United States. This is an area that has a significant amount of freight traffic congestion, in addition to other efficiency and safety challenges that our software is being applied to in order to try and mitigate. So I'll just quickly pause this. Sorry. Let's go back. I'm now going to show you a brief clip of a deployment that we have in Florida and Orlando, specifically focused on road safety. And later in the presentation, I'll show how this data is being applied. But essentially, we were featured on local news because this is a challenge that actually does impact people's lives. We've actually received unsolicited feedback after this news piece was released, with people thanking us and saying that they have been personally and unfortunately touched in some way through a collision, a fatality, or other road safety event. And the fact that the local municipality, our customer, is actually implementing this kind of technology as a forward and proactive step to mitigate those kinds of events was very important to them. Let's try and go back.
Well, now artificial intelligence is being used to help solve that problem.
The goal here is to pinpoint any changes that might need to be made to make the road safer. Fox 35's Chris Lindsay explains how this new technology works.
Reduce fatalities and serious injuries down to zero.
That's the goal for the Seminole County Traffic Safety Department. Engineer Charles Wetzel hopes artificial intelligence will help his team accomplish it.
Technology has really changed our field.
They've partnered with a company called Gridmatrix to launch a new AI program. It's being run through the cameras at 15 intersections throughout Seminole County.
Intersections with the highest fatalities or injuries to vulnerable users. And vulnerable users we call pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorcyclists.
This is a map of all the intersections they have the technology set up at. All you have to do is pick one of them, click it, and then it'll take you to a dashboard of all the statistics from that site.
It can determine the vehicle speed. It can determine any near misses.
The AI flags the near misses and other issues that aren't typically seen without an actual crash and compiles them.
So you got to see there, I think, importantly, not just how our customer is applying our information, but specifically, I don't know if I can easily go back and look, but you probably saw the entire wall in the traffic management center, for those of you who are operators yourselves, of literally dozens and dozens of camera feeds. And it's very difficult for any single operator to make sense of all that information. And what we're really trying to do with our software is make all that data actionable. So now with that, we're going to head over and do a quick demo of our platform so you can see specifically what our customer is looking at. And let's quickly just log in here. Okay, so I thought I already had this loaded up, but while it's loading up, essentially what you're going to see here is the same dashboard that our customer in Orlando is seeing. All these little dots here represent a camera that we're connected to. And then you can see all the different information they present across the top in these verticals: congestion, signal performance, emissions, and safety. I'm going to focus specifically on safety here just because of the purpose of this webinar is road safety. But again, would like to reiterate that most of these areas are interconnected. So how a signal is performing might impact safety. How congested a specific area is, the amount of idle time or a queue length also has knock-on effects for safety, which is part of the reason we actually don't separate any of these out. When we do deliver our platform to our customers, we do think it's important that they do have this complete picture. So we have a couple different views. Right now, what you're seeing is something that we call city view. And the idea here is that you're able to quickly compare multiple intersections to one another. You can compare them on any of these 4 different areas: congestion, signal performance, emissions, and safety. If you were to click into any one of them, what you would be brought to here is now a deep dive of that specific location. Am I on safety here? Yeah, give me a second. I might have to like go back and reload this, but well, I'll just talk through it. So I think this is up here in safety for the time. Okay, yeah, I'll reload it. It was on congestion. I want to show you safety, but while this loads, essentially what you're going to see here are a time series of different KPIs or key performance indicators on safety metrics. So these are things such as speed, arrival on green, maybe most importantly, and this isn't really filtered for right now, but this is showing all near miss incidents and their locations and densities at the intersection. And you can see this is mapped onto a 360-degree camera because that's the kind of existing hardware that we're using. If I were to filter this, and let's say filter for a specific near miss pair, I could filter for pedestrians and cyclists. I could filter for cyclists and heavy vehicles. I could filter for buses and pedestrians. But when you do apply those filters, you will see this density plot change, and then you're going to be able to more easily see where your specific hotspots are and redress them. And then most excitingly, this is a new feature that we've launched really in the last month, is the ability to actually capture video clips. So previously, what our platform was doing was taking all of this video data or other sensor data and then processing it into these quantitative KPIs and returning this information to our customers. But now, just log in again, hold on. Oh, one more time. Great. So now I might start this in the middle. Let's see if it loads. Maybe try refreshing this. Hold on. Perfect. I'll probably start in the middle though. So what you're going to see here is a video clip that was automatically captured using our AI. And the reason that it was flagged under the event type of jaywalking. It's because you can see this pedestrian walk out of the, I mean, it's actually a law enforcement officer walk out of his vehicle and walk over across the street in oncoming traffic. So this is the kind of information that our platform is now able to automatically capture, record a short video clip, in addition to logging all of those different quantitative analytics around these events. And what we found is that our customers love this because they're able to then take it and show not just the graphs and charts that quantitatively demonstrate that these events happen frequently, but for the worst or the most serious incidents, they actually have a record of what happened so they can start to observe patterns around them. I'll play it one more time and then I'll flip back over for the remainder of the presentation. We can start in the middle here. And our platform is able to do this for a host of other events. It's not just jaywalking, but red light running, collisions, near misses, speeding, unauthorized access. If there's an area where someone's not supposed to be at a facility, these are all different things that we've been able to adapt this technology to. All right, and let's conclude with the rest of the presentation. So maybe the most important here is how is this data being applied? So we just saw this live demo, and I want to talk a little bit about how all that data that's being collected is actually being applied. So the intersections here are redacted, but this is again focusing on our deployment in Florida around Orlando. And what our customer there is doing is, first of all, trying to put all the intersections on a equal level when trying to assess which ones are safe or the most and least safe. And the way that they're doing that is our platform is able to capture all of the volume at all these different intersections and also the rate of near misses. So if you take the quantity of near misses and you divide it by the total volume, what you're able to get is this over here on the right, the statistic that they're calling the vulnerable user near miss proportion, which is for every vulnerable road user, being a pedestrian, a cyclist, how frequently, given the volume of those road users, is a near miss occurring. And then very quickly, you're able to find those intersections that have the highest proportion of near misses, which are themselves indicative of where to expect maybe a collision or fatality to occur. There are customers then taking that data and mapping it against a historical record of what's called KSI, or killed or seriously injured events. It might be a little bit hard to see here, but all these different aerial views map either KSI events or non-KSI events, which means that someone, there might have been an event, but they weren't necessarily killed or seriously injured. And then comparing that to those heat maps and density plots that I just showed you our platform produces. And then finally, going through all these different intersections, making action plans specifically focused on how to mitigate those events based on the data that we provided. So everything from, for this intersection, looking at the eastbound approach, commissioning a safety study, but basically being able to use all of this data in order to proactively drive mitigating measures and make investments based on evidence, as opposed to waiting for, unfortunately, enough KSI events to occur before being able to justify making an investment. And with that, that's it. I'd love to open it up for a Q&A now. I'm happy to revisit anything that we saw either in the presentation or the demo. I think based on, we have 20 participants. I think the best way to do this maybe with that amount is if everyone would kindly just write if you have a question, write it in the chat. And then Brittany, if you could just read it out to me, I'm happy to answer. But thank you all so much for coming. Any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat. No questions at all? All right, looks like I got a couple. Yeah, no, it's okay. Go ahead, sorry.
Okay, so the first question, do you have the ability to modify or refine what you consider to be a near miss?
Yes, absolutely. We have, I guess, a couple of things. I also see a question in here. Well, let's just do one at a time. Yes, so currently, what we do is we measure near misses according to two different metrics. One is called post-encroachment time, and one is called time to collision. The one that you see here that we're measuring is we're using post-encroachment time, and that's because the trajectories conflict. Like this is actually like an intersection with conflicting trajectories. So the amount of time that's separating a leading object from a following object in terms of when their paths of travel would intersect is the post-encroachment time, and it's measured in seconds. Right now, our platform captures everything that's 5 seconds or below. But if our user was interested in, let's say, moving that threshold up or down, that's absolutely something that we could adjust.
Great. And then a follow-up to that one was also, what are you considering currently a near miss?
Great. So everything that we're considering a near miss, if it's a intersection like you see pictured here, where there's conflicting paths of travel, it would be a leading object and a following object with conflicting paths of travel where the conflict occurs within 5 seconds or less, based on their current speeds. If it was parallel lanes of travel, just picture, one vehicle with a second one tailgating it. If the vehicle in front suddenly slammed on their brakes, how long would it take for the vehicle behind it to basically rear end it? That would be time to collision, and those paths of travel are parallel. But those are the two different metrics that we would use to quantify a near miss.
Great. And then questions regarding who should be carrying the camera. We have one question: if pedestrians should carry the camera, or if traffic cops should be using Gridmatrix.
Great. So let's do one at a time. Pedestrians do not need to carry the camera. The idea here is the camera position is fixed. Not fixed like we can use PTZ cameras, but it's monitoring one location over time. That way we're able to gather data over time. And also from a pedestrian's vantage point, it would be hard to see the whole intersection. So being able to see the intersection like above like this allows us to be able to get information about all the different approaches and information about how those different approaches interact with one another. What's the second?
Great. And then the follow-up was, should traffic cops and police be using Gridmatrix?
Yeah, absolutely. We have law enforcement customers. They're particularly using Gridmatrix to monitor things like, let's say like at an airport, whether or not there's a vehicle that's loitering for too long at the curb, whether or not at a sensitive area, at a facility, there's an unauthorized person or vehicle in a place where they're not supposed to be. And generally, how do they accelerate emergency response times? That's also very important with roadway safety. If at a bridge or tunnel, a pedestrian walks into the bridge or tunnel on a roadway like this, if there's a collision, the faster they can get the information, the more quickly they can respond to it.
Great. Next question: how are you using this for red light violations?
Great. So what we're able to do is the same way that you saw us get a clip of a I go back to it up here. But the same way that you saw us get a clip up here of, let's say, like a law enforcement officer walking out of their vehicle, we're able to get clips of red light violations. And part of the way that we're able to do that is by ingesting SPAT data, or signal phase and timing data. That's data that comes specifically out of a traffic signal controller. But with that, we're able to understand what the light phase is, either yellow, green, or red. And then if we know that it's a red phase, and then we see a vehicle transit the intersection during a red phase, we would be able to get a clip of that. And we'd also be able to log the incident so we can understand the frequency that it's happening.
Awesome. Next question: is there any security measures that are implemented for the captured video for near miss or collisions?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, we run on AWS. Well, we have two different potential options, either AWS end-to-end, or an on-prem solution in order to process all the video. And then once the video is processed on-prem, like on a server on our customer's premises, all of that processed information is then sent to AWS. In the all AWS solution, it's a single tenant solution. And as I mentioned, we are all SOC2 Type 2 certified. So the fact we're single tenant means that none of your information is ever commingled with any other customers. You're the only one who has access to it. And then it's also protected by SOC2 Type 2 level security. If we do the on-prem option, then none of your video data actually ever goes to AWS. It's all contained on the server, which you control because it's on your premises. And then secondarily, the processed information, the processed output, is also sent to a single tenant AWS cloud that's SOC2 Type 2 certified.
Awesome. Next question is a little bit on client timeline. Can you talk about how long it takes to implement the solution for new customers across their systems, and also historical customer footage, how that is used to help analyze and determine their solutions going forward?
Great. So in terms of implementing new customers, for us, it probably takes an hour a camera to configure for the very first time, and it's a one-time setup process. We don't have to do it again. So in terms of the math on that, I mean, if you have a couple hundred cameras, maybe like 2 weeks. If you have a couple dozen, up in a week. We find that typically the amount of time that it takes to deploy is not really a roadblock, or it's not roadblocked really by our technology, but it's just making sure that we have all the stakeholders around the table engaged. Typically, we have, our customers who are the operations folks or the planning and the transportation folks. But we also start working with IT security from day one and having those conversations. Those probably take another, let's say, like 2 or 3 weeks. So maybe end to end between engaging all the stakeholders and the actual deployment of the technology, 3 to 4 weeks to get up and running.
Awesome. Nick, can you talk about how the data is shared with others and who else has access to the data other than the client?
So we don't share data. As I mentioned, we run a single tenant cloud, so none of our customers' data is ever commingled with any other customers. We don't share data between customers, and we also don't use uh, one customer's data to train or refine for another customer without their express permission. So if a customer, is granting us access to their cameras, and we're developing and refining or calibrating our machine vision algorithm for them based on those cameras, if they are open to the idea of us being able to use those refinements for another customer, we will, but if not, we won't do it without their express permission. So that's also something that we try and be transparent about, and also defer to our customers' preference.
Great. The next question is regarding emissions monitoring. What logic is used to calculate that? And can you quickly show a demo if you have it?
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's a great question. Let me go and get it pulled up here. But in terms of the way that we calculate it, so we know all of the different federal highway vehicle classes. So we know, class 3, class 5, and we know the amount of time that they've spent idling, which is the phase that or the state that vehicles produce the most emissions in. And then we also know their speed. We also know their acceleration. So using all those data points, like the federal highway vehicle class, the amount of time spent idling, the speed, the acceleration, we're able to come up with a estimate for emissions in a given location. Also like the volume, because we count them all. We're able to come up with an estimate for emissions. The only other variable is we use, well, 2 other variables. We use for every federal highway vehicle class, the EPA publishes the estimated CO2 per gallon emitted based on like speed buckets, like 0 to 20, 20 to 40. And then the Department of Energy has a estimate for EV adoption per zip code. So based on our total emissions number, we do tweak it slightly based on the EV penetration in a zip code. But those are all the different variables that basically go into producing this metric. And then what you can see here is like, basically the total amount of CO2 produced by each of these different classes, both gas consumption and emissions. So the amount of gas consumed and the amount of emissions produced.
Awesome. Thank you. Next question. Can you do LPR processing for OD studies? So you can process temporary deployed cameras. They do not have to be fixed/permanently installed. Wanting to confirm that this is correct.
Correct. Yeah. If you want to do a temporary deployment, so for everyone who's interested, LPR is license plate reading. That's not something that we do by default. Again, we don't take personally identifiable information or license plates by default. LPR cameras are very specific. They're like very high resolution and mounted at usually a specific vantage point to be able to read a license plate. If that's something that you're interested in us doing, this technology can absolutely do that. But generally speaking, the cameras that we're tapping into are like high vantage point, intersection cameras that are meant to see, like all 4 approaches. But sure, that's definitely something that we could do if it's an area of interest for you.
Great. Next question. Are you able to detect wrong way or negative speed?
We are able to detect wrong way driving, yes.
Great. For emission studies, can you identify EV vehicle versus IC vehicles? And if so, how do you do it?
It depends on the resolution of your camera. So the camera that you're looking at here is like a 240p camera. And what I would always say about AI is that it can't see any better than you can. It can pay attention for longer than you can. Like humans get tired, but it can't see any better than you can because all the training data is something that we label. So if you're looking at this image, here, I think this is a 240p camera. It's you can't really tell if one of these cars is a Tesla or not. So in that case, we're not going to be able to make that determination. For a very high resolution camera, like 720p and above, we would start to be able to identify the make and model. And then once we can identify the make and model, then we can get you, very accurate data about whether, what the localized emissions would be based on EVs.
Great. So we've reached the end of the questions that are currently in the chat. I'll open it back up if anyone else has any additional questions they'd like to put in the chat. And if no one else has any other questions, I will hand it back over to Nick for closing remarks.
That's it, everybody. Thank you so much for your time. Please follow us on social media. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can go to our website. A lot of new and exciting deployments coming up, so please stay tuned. We're growing pretty quickly and deploying increasingly across the country. We actually have our first international deployment coming up, so please stay tuned to hear more about that. Otherwise, this information session was recorded, so I'll make sure to get it posted on all these different channels. You will have the opportunity to go back and review. And if any of you need to reach out to me, please just find me on LinkedIn. And many of you probably know me personally, so please always feel free to email me. It's always a delight to hear from you. Other than that, I hope you have a fantastic day and looking forward to hearing from all of you soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.